Just smile, it's that simple. Things will be alright. Things will be alright. Things will be alright. Just gotta let it slide. And things will be alright. Let it rain down on us, babe. Wash the worry from you. It's another day.
Let's get started.
Be alright.
Timing. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the last two talks of today. We have a very exciting program for you in this session. So the first one, I'm going to introduce two speakers. We will have Anastasia Kulakova and Merzat Karami. Anastasia works as a data scientist and Merzat as an AI consultant, but today they are here to represent Correlate, a non-profit organization. So Anastasia's goals at Correlate are include bringing more data for good projects on board, streamlining technical processes, and continuing her meetup series that got her excited to join PyData in the first place. Merzat joined Correlate with the goal of making this blue planet a better place for everyone, helping NGOs harness the power of data and data science. With a strong passion for collaboration and people, Merzat's everyday reminder is live, love, explore, and challenge your excuses every day. I love that. So the talk is titled Data Science for Social Good, Making Impact in Resource-Constrained Environments. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Anastasia and Merzat.
Hey, yeah, thank you for the introduction, and I guess both of us are thrilled to be here today. Yeah, shall we start? I think yes. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. We are very excited to have you here today, and I guess you've spent this day at PyData filled with exciting technical talks, deep dives into data science trends and the newest tools. And today we will be offering something a little bit different. Today we will take a little bit of a step back and a bit less technical look at how these skills that you've mastered at your work, your studies, and PyData tutorials, how these can be applied to doing data for good, so making impact in resource-constrained environments of nonprofits, and how we can drive the social change with our data science skills. Every day, when we're opening our news apps, we see that it's filled with alarming headlines. Climate change, poverty on the rise, and pollution. These are all the things that we face when we open our news apps. And to be honest, what strikes me most is that these challenges are becoming even more complex and intertwined. And yeah, it can sound scary, to be honest, but it's not as hopeless as it sounds, first of all, because not just the decision makers, the governments, but also nonprofits here are acting on that. They rise to the challenge. And for example, the likes of Crisis Ready and 510 from Netherlands Red Cross, they work tirelessly on disaster recovery. The likes of Give Well and Give Directly, they try to tackle poverty with direct donations to those in need. And and Ocean Cleanup and the likes of them tackle the pollution. And as you can see, those challenges these days, they demand very innovative response. It's not just the passion and eagerness that can bring the change, right, with these complex issues. As you can see from those headlines, nonprofits are extensively using data nowadays to drive the social good. And to be honest, that can be a little bit complicated, but in a nutshell, I think they are utilizing it in three main ways, this mission-critical data. First of all, it informs. It informs the decision-making, allows to monitor the current situation. It allows to stay alert on the situations on the ground, like in the case of crisis ready. It guides the decision-making. It allows to uncover the complex patterns in the data. It allows to make more informed decisions, right? Like in the case of Give Directly, that study who can benefit most from direct support. And data helps to optimize, like in case of ocean cleanup that tackles the ocean pollution. This is all very helpful for nonprofits. And good thing is that some of the nonprofits already recognize how mission-critical data has become for them, and is already utilizing data extensively. In the previous slide, we've mentioned Ocean Cleanup. That's a great Dutch nonprofit organization that made its goal to get rid of the ocean plastic. And that's how they operate from data perspective in a nutshell. They extensively use satellite imagery to stay informed on the biggest accumulations of ocean plastic. They also use this satellite imagery and other data sources to analyze the composition of the plastic. And this kind of information, it guided them to a crucial discovery some time ago. I think that was last year or so. They realized that only 1,000 rivers, which is roughly 1% of the overall number of rivers in our planet Earth, is responsible for roughly 80% of overall accumulation of plastic in the ocean. And that is actually a very striking discovery. And that allows them to optimize their operation really a lot. So now, instead of looking all over the ocean, they can target the specific areas. They can work with local governments and other organizations to target those particular places. But needless to say, I guess many of us already know ocean cleanup, and they're actually becoming bigger and more recognizable for their impact in the Netherlands and Europe and in the world in general. And they are pretty well funded at the moment. And great for them, but also impact is not just about the size, because smaller organizations, mid and smaller nonprofits, they can also be very effective when it comes to making the change. So, for example, we recently, while preparing those slides, what we learned that smaller and mid-sized organizations, they are able to allocate up to 90% of all the funds they gather into mission-related activities. While larger organizations, for them this number is roughly 60–80%, which is much smaller because they have a very high cost of running their organization. So meaning that it's not actually just about the size, the impact. And if armed with proper insights and proper tools, those mid-size and small-size organizations can bring powerful change. But it's not that simple for them, right? So even for us, I work in the industry, and Merzat as well, even for us, we see some obstacles in data adoption. And this is even more impactful for smaller and mid-sized organizations. For example, the budget, right? So limited budget, it restricts access to the tools that we, for example, think are the industry standards. Also, limited budgets mean less access to people that are trained in data and AI. This creates a wide knowledge gap, right? And this lack of in-house expertise doesn't allow nonprofits to make their implementation and utilization of the tools efficient. And to be honest, the data itself is a challenge of its own. Collecting, storing, analyzing the data is quite challenged by growing complexity. So now we don't just store the tabular data, right? We store images, we process speech, we work with satellite imagery. And of course, under privacy concerns and various regulations, that is a big challenge, especially for nonprofits that are working with this sensitive data, which is often the case for humanitarian causes. So, to be honest, this sounds very frustrating, but nonprofits also are not the only ones feeling frustrated. Take a person, maybe someone like you, who may think that actually this feels like something that they would like to work on. These challenges speak to their hearts and they want to do something. And oftentimes people just simply don't know where to get started. Which organization should I contact? And will they even trust me? How can I help? What skill set do they need? Which team can I join? Which project is there for me to help out? And which skills do I want to develop to be even more efficient at what I do? And this is where Correlate comes in, because Correlate is built by data people passionate about making social good, and it's built by people who understand the unique needs of nonprofit organization. And together, we make this process a little bit less frustrating and more efficient. So together, we build trust between volunteers and nonprofits because we speak basically both languages. As a nonprofit ourselves, we understand firsthand what it is like and what challenges there are. And we also speak the language of data as various data professionals. We're also able to use that knowledge, this affinity with both areas to scope projects efficiently and to scope them with attainable goals in mind, right? So that the projects are attainable for the volunteers who execute on them. We also used our knowledge to gather volunteers with the most relevant skill set for the task at hand. And finally, we deliver impact iteratively. What it means for us is that we try to work on the goals that are attainable in a certain period of time. If we think that the project can be divided into milestones or phases, we do that. And we aim to deliver solutions that can be supported on the nonprofit end without further involvement of our volunteers. And yeah, since I mentioned Correlate, logically, I will tell you who we are. We are Correlate Netherlands, a nonprofit network of 300 data enthusiasts in the Netherlands and more than 2,500 people all around Europe, all united by the goal of doing data for social good. And in the Netherlands, our team is roughly 10 people. Depends on when you ask me, but roughly we are 10 people. And we're very lucky and honored today to have at least 4 of us in here. So you've already met me. I'm Anastasia. And I definitely think you've met Marisha and Mayar over there. So wave to the audience. You've probably seen them checking you in or helping you out the venue because they're also with PyData today. And also, you've met Merzat, and with that, I will let him take over the next part of the presentation, where we will dive deeper into projects.
Thank you, Anastasia. Hello there. Hi. As Anastasia mentioned, we are a small non-profit organization, Correlate. We are focusing in our work on small and mid-sized non-profits, trying to help them. Usually we do what in Nederland we are focused on doing projects. Correlate is, of course, a much bigger network. It's about 2,500 volunteers worldwide. But in Holland, we try to focus on doing projects, which are usually between 3 to 6 months. Our projects are divided into 4 to 6 volunteers, usually, which do 3 to 6 month projects, together in collaboration with the nonprofits. And in that term, we know that every one of you and every one of us is a very busy life. You have your life, personal life, work, and very busy. So there is little time that you can actually save to do social good. So for that one, we always focus on doing projects in a way that our volunteers don't spend more than 4 hours a week on projects. By doing this, we try to make sure that even those people and data experts that don't have enough time in the daily life can still collaborate to social good and complete the projects. So in making impact, as mentioned, for our volunteers, there is a time constraint. But this time constraint is not only about volunteers, it's also about nonprofits. All these small and mid-sized nonprofits have little time little money, and little scope. So they have a difficulty in terms of combining these three factors to optimize and to deliver in their doing the projects. So what we do in our work, we try to take these three factors for the non-profits and together with our volunteers and make an impact that is as efficient as possible. And of course, efficiency is something that you as data scientists know everything about. So we focus on that as well. How do we do our projects? We focus on three aspects of projects: the challenge, the solution, and the impact. Together with the non-profits, we try to pinpoint and recognize the biggest problem that they're trying to solve. By that, we minimize the problem domain. After that, together with our volunteers and the volunteers from the non-profits, we try to create a solution using data science and technology to create a solution that provides the biggest impact for the non-profits and for the purpose that they're trying to achieve. So we have brought today 3 projects to give you an example that we have done in the past to showcase how these small projects work for us and for the non-profits. So one of the projects that we did was with a non-profit organization called SLK. They are a sustainability-focused non-profit active in Kosovo and in Albania. Now, the biggest problem that they had was, I don't know if maybe some of you know about that, Kosovo has one of the oldest forests, native forests in Europe, one of the oldest ones. But they are losing the forest because of illegal cutting of the trees, because other countries sending organizations to Kosovo because in their own country they cannot cut the trees. So they go to Kosovo and they cut the trees and they take the wood. So that's the biggest problem that they had in Kosovo. They had a lot of data that they could use in order to showcase this and create awareness, but they didn't know how to transform this data into a compelling visualization that could actually create awareness, and that was their goal. Create awareness with the community and with the government to showcase what the problem in Kosovo is and find a solution. So together with our volunteers and the volunteers from SLK, we transformed this data into a visualization model. So we used GIS tools together with web stack technology, and we built a visualization model that was actually able to transform this data set into something that they could showcase to policymakers, to the government, and to the communities. And by doing this, they created a lot of impact. We did this project about 2 years ago, but the summer after we did the project, they were able to change the policymakers' mind in Kosovo to start a tree planting program in Kosovo to rebuild the forest again. So this project was done with 4 to 6 volunteers. And they made an impact that was really impactful for the country. So next project we did was with an organization called BankTrack. BankTrack is a non-profit that is focused on keeping track of the policies, sustainability policies that the banks have. And a lot of banks have sustainability programs, internally and externally, but they change very often. So the biggest problem was for BankTrack, they had to do this manually. And because they had to do this manually, it took them a lot of time to keep track of the changing policies in banks. So what did we do here? Together with our volunteers and BankTrack, we automated the data pipeline, and we used an open source project, which I forgot the name of the tool.
Change detection.
Change detection is an open source project. Check it out. It works very well. So we took that tool together with our volunteers and optimized it for BankTrack so we could actually automate the whole data pipeline. So they saved them a lot of time. They could spend the saved time into campaigning and other things that they could do. And one of the nice things about this project is that at the end, our volunteers were able to give back the code to the open source project itself. So we contributed to the open source project as well. And the last but not least, project with a nonprofit called CrowdFight. CrowdFight is a nonprofit organization set up by Scientific World. They try to match volunteers in the scientific world, so scientists, with the projects that are coming in from refugee camps, from COVID, they started actually with the COVID, and then they grew exponentially because every scientist worldwide wanted to help to fix the COVID problem. So we partnered with them, and together with CrowdFight, they were doing the matching manually. So it took them a lot of time because they were getting thousands of requests every day, thousands of volunteers worldwide every day. So they grew in a couple of months to 50,000 volunteers. Imagine if you want to do the matching manually. It wouldn't work out. So what we did with 4 to 6 people, we did the project in 2 phases, 2 times 6 months. And with that, we actually created a data pipeline that was automating the data processing from the demand to the matching side, to the result side. And we were able to do better matching, faster matching, and automated the process. For this one, this was if you ask me from technology point of view, it was a very interesting project. We used Google Cloud. We used BigQueries, we used GitHub Actions, we used Jupyter Notebooks, and we used one more thing, Docker and GitHub Actions. It was a very interesting project, and we are very happy about it, as CrowdFight is as well. So these were examples of 3 projects that we did. In Corelate Netherlands, we exist since 2018. During these years, we have done over 13 projects. We have done 22 events and meetups. And as Anastasia mentioned, we have a core team of 10 to 12 volunteers that are helping to manage and organize the projects, to reach out to the NGOs, and then help out to do setup projects. And we have about 300 volunteers in Netherlands and over 2,500 volunteers worldwide, especially in Europe, that are helping with projects for us. And of course, from here, we have a lot of learning points, which Anastasia will tell you more about.
Yeah, not just me, but I'll start with the main one. When we just started Corelate around 6 years ago, wasn't me, wasn't Merzat, but the people before us, we were targeting data scientists because that was the expertise of the people who were at Corelate back then, and that's where all of us thought the value lies. But through 6 years of our operations, we found out that it's not just data scientists who bring value, but also those communicators, those great connectors between the people who are able to sympathize with the nonprofits, who understand their unique needs, who can connect to them, but also those who are pragmatic to scope the projects, right, and bring them in the format that would be very kind of readable and actionable for our volunteering pool, who would know, hey, this is something that I actually can do, right? And after that, when the project started, it's also people who take their engineering skills and see when and where should we deploy things, which technologies we use, so that the projects run as efficiently as possible. For example, with BankTrack, these were those engineering minds who found an open source project that we later helped to develop, right? It's also those people, actually data scientists and data analysts, who are able to design complex algorithms, right? Like with the project with CrowdFight, where the whole thing was not just about automating, but also making the matching process more, how do you say it? More actionable, when basically the supply meets the demand and the match is good, and yeah. And finally, also those who can turn this data into stories, actionable stories, like the ones that were able to convince the Kosovo government that their policies on deforestation and the way they treat their forests, that's not sustainable anymore. So we need all those people to make lasting impact.
Yes, correct. And the impact is what we are trying to do and what we are asking you to do as well. You know, impact comes in many forms, as Anastasia mentioned. We are almost all of us are data scientists, technical people. But if you look at daily life, your own work, and the work also that we do here, there is much more than just technical stuff. Just to give you an example, reaching out to nonprofits, making that connection with them, trying to understand their problem. And you know, in the last couple of years, there has been this terminology called data storytellers in data science world. And even now, they are hiring data storytellers. There is a value in there. It's not only the technical. You combine the technical part with the business part and with the problem understanding. And that is what we are trying to combine and what we are trying to get through our volunteers, to connect with the nonprofits, understand the problem, define the problem, and try also to make them understand that solving a problem is not about only technology, but it's about understanding each other and connecting with each other.
And also one of the biggest learning that we've had so far comes directly from our volunteers. To be honest, like every day, we're very inspired to see how people find time to fit volunteering into their daily life. For example, some people do that through company-supported programs where the employer treats volunteering as, for example, learning and development opportunity. People who allocate their weekends, for example, or some hours in the evenings, not their Fridays most of the time, but people still allocate their time. And I've heard stories when people were writing the blog posts for Correlate, for example, commuting to work, something like that. That is very inspiring. And for us, every contribution like this helps us make significant impact.
Yes. And I hope you like the story that we are telling today. What we are asking from you is think about it and see whether that fits into your daily life and whether it fits to your life, help do social good and using data. It doesn't have to be Correlate. We are not asking you today to join Correlate. Of course, you will be more than happy if you do that. But we are trying to create an awareness as we create awareness with our nonprofits and our volunteers. Creating an awareness, first recognize that you can do a lot. Never underestimate yourself and the knowledge that you have. Second, always try to learn more than just what you know or technology. Try to understand the other side. And by that, join and follow up. If you are interested in Correlate, we will have a session, I think, in 20 minutes, somewhere in Escher Room, here up there. I think the details are here. You're more than welcome to join the session and then ask questions. Ask questions not only about Correlate, but about doing social good. How can I help? What can I do with my tech? What do I need to know? How can I participate in making this world, the only blue planet that we have, a better place?
And we'd like to leave you maybe with one thought before we go. We would like to have you join in doing Data for Good with us, because we think it might be a bit easier than you think. So with that, that's the end.
Thank you so much for this inspiring talk. Are there any questions in the room?